week, the G20 presidency was officially transferred from South Africa to the United States, but not with the usual ceremony, not with the lights, the stage, the cameras, and applause, no leaders. Just a small, quiet exchange inside the Department of the International Relations and Cooperation in Pretoria between a senior South African official and the U.S. charged affairs. Now, a symbolic moment delivered in the least symbolic way possible. Now, today we're asking, why did this happen? What does it signal, and what does it reveal about South Africa as a black-led nation and is treated on the global stage? Let's get into it.
It is a commitment to concrete actions that will improve the lives of people in every part of the world. Our agreement on a declaration during this summit demonstrates the value of the G20 as a forum that can facilitate joint action on issues of shared concern. Shared concern not only for the leaders, but shared concern for the peoples of the world. More than that, it reaffirms our renewed commitment to multilateral cooperation and our recognition that our shared goals outweigh our differences. Together, we must accelerate progress towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations and the Pact for the Future. We have laid the foundation of solidarity. Now we must build the walls of justice and the roof of prosperity.
Now, normally the G20 presidency handover is a big deal, right? There's a formal ceremony, but this year, nothing of that sort. Now, DIRCO's Director General Dane Dango says that both countries agreed to keep it quiet. But family, we all know this show, right? We don't just stop at the press release. We look at what's beyond it. Now, the truth of the matter is that South Africa refused to give the gavel to a junior American diplomat at the G20 summit in Johannesburg. And this is because protocol required that a head of state accept it. Tradition is clear. A president hands the gavel to a president and not a mid-level embassy official. But President Donald Trump refused to attend. The U.S. refused to send vice president, and the Secretary of the State didn't attend. But they didn't even send a cabinet-level representative. Instead, they wanted someone who is basically the acting manager of the embassy to stand on a global stage and receive one of the most important ceremonial symbols in multilateral diplomacy. But South Africa said absolutely not, and honestly, rightfully so. If South Africa hosted a global summit and sent a junior official to collect a symbol of leadership, the US would call it disrespect. They would call it unserious. They would call it inappropriate. So why must Africa accept it? And behind the scenes, this was the dispute, right? The US wanted the gavel, but didn't want to send anyone senior to collect it. South Africa refused to compromise diplomatic standards, so the US then retaliated by boycotting the summit and then complained about not getting the gavel. Family, I do think that this tension reflects something quite deeper, which is a shift in global power and a discomfort with African leadership. Every other major world leader attended or sent high-ranking representation. The US, the host of next year's summit, was the only country that avoided the ceremony entirely. Now let that sink in. And I see a pattern here. Whenever African nations stand up for themselves diplomatically, even politely, there's always backlash. Whenever we insist on respect, we get labeled difficult. When we follow protocol, we get accused of disrespect. It's the same old global order trying to reassert itself. That Africa must be humble, that Africa must accept any treatment it gets, that Africa must not expect equality, and that we must not demand decorum. And then we must not embarrass the Western power. And South Africa saying no to a junior official receiving the gavel was not disrespect, it was dignity. It was a declaration that Africa is not a side stage at its own event. And I want you to remember this. If Africa does not discipline global disrespect, no one will. By moving the hand over to a quiet room in Pretoria, South Africa preserved protocol number one, and the US avoided public embarrassment. But both sides prevented a diplomatic spectacle, and the G20 leadership transition remained intact. But make no mistake, this was not a mutual decision in spirit. It was a compromise forced by the US's own choices. And I do believe that if we showed maturity in this, that we will not shame you publicly, but we will also not break international protocol just because you're the United States. And this, I believe, is how confident nations carry itself. Let's check this out.
We did not deny anyone access. The United States is a member of the G20, and if they want to be represented, they can still send anyone at the right level. It's the Leaders Summit. The right level is head of state. It's a special envoy appointed by the president of that country. It could also be a minister. And we've always been open, so we have not denied anyone. What we have said, because it's an officials level in terms of that issue, is that DERCO accept the fact that the US is going to be taking over this platform of the G20, and we welcome that they want to take it over. They can come at our offices, and the right level officials will hand over the G20 to the American officials.
So no Minister, access to the charge, do you think?
No, they are allowed to participate, so it's up to them. But the issue of handover, the President of the Republic of South Africa will not be handing over to the charge d'affaires from the US. We will be handing over to the US in the DERCO offices, or anywhere they may want us to arrange within the borders of the Republic of South Africa.
Now, this moment sends a clear message that Africa will not be bullied or disrespected in global spaces anymore. That we are not asking for special treatment, but we are asking for the same standard applied to every other country, which is respect, which is rank, which is protocol and equality. South Africa hosted the first G20 summit on African soil, and we earned the right to conduct it with dignity, and we earned the right to refuse symbolic downgrading. And I do think that we've earned the right to expect the United States or any country to take our leadership at least seriously. Now, despite tensions, the US is now officially the G20 chair. South Africa remains a key member, and both countries, like it or not, need each other diplomatically and economically. And going forward, US must respect African leadership. South Africa must remain consistent. And I do think that the global South must stay unified because whether it's climate finance, global trade, peacemaking, or development, Africa's voice is no longer optional, but it is essential. It is very much paramount. Now, today's lesson is quite simple. South Africa did not shrink itself for global approval. If anything, we did not bend for convenience. We did not bow down to pressure. We handled the handover very quietly, but with our dignity fully intact. And that is what leadership looks like in the global South. Let's continue the conversation in the comment section. I do want to hear what your thoughts on this, though. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. My name is Naledi Mfoloe, reporting live in Johannesburg, South Africa.